Gina Carano has kind of got Disney in some hot water, I would say. So, pretty much her trial that she's been fighting for and Disney has been trying to avoid it has been
Mm.
approved and the date is set. This happened just 2 days ago, where she basically gets her trial against Disney suing for sex discrimination, for improper discrimination, in improper firing and removing from the Disney Star Wars franchise.
I had to ask though, when you say sex discrimination, that's very vague, and I had to ask, and we had to go look it up. What did she actually get fired for? And I know we've talked about it in the past, but I was like, what did actually she get fired for? Because
Right, right.
it it's been a while, and people probably don't really remember. It was for a tweet that she
It
created.
was it, I don't know if it was, it might have been a tweet. I don't really remember what platform this was on, but it was on one of the social medias. It seems like a tweet. Um so the term sex discrimination might be something that the lawyers are using
Mm.
to motivate it. It's kind of just rooted in the idea that she feels she was wrongfully fired. And I think the public has a very strong opinion about if they feel it was right or wrong. So this is what happened is after the Mandalorian season 2, she posted a comparison because she got upset with the political divide in the country, in the United States of America, right?
Mm.
So she wrote in a social media post, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point to where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So the context of when she posted this kind of is makes it clear. I don't remember exactly the context, but it's generally the political divide. Okay. So,
Yeah.
and she left it vague so it could go either way. The point of it is political hate is wrong because it leads to something bad. We saw an example of that with Jews during Nazi Germany, right? Um, she then got fired very soon after from Lucasfilms. And this is what a spokesperson said: Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilms, and there is no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrated people based on their cultural and religious identities, are abhorrent and unacceptable. So they basically said this is insensitive to make the comparison to Jews, right?
Yes, and it seems like she's firing. She is suing Disney for probably breach of contract and back pay that they
Right.
would have owed her if she finished the show.
There's a lot of speculation, even this Forbes article that says Carano is seeking damages as a result of the situation, but most surprisingly, it looks like for an injunction that would allow her to return to her job, forcing Disney to rehire her to play Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, where she had a supporting role. Before all this, she was also on the verge of getting her own spin off, it seemed. This, of course, seems like the most absurd part of the case, as Carano forcibly getting Disney to rehire would result in what exactly? So basically, it says that the assumption is it's not very likely that she's actually going to be put back in a Star Wars project. What she probably will seek is damages and contracts that have been broken and not paid from the firing.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes
So,
sense. I
yeah.
mean, it would probably, yeah, definitely be better for Disney to just pay her out and not put her on screen anymore, because I I I guess they're probably thinking in their head like justice is being served by not putting her back on screen. So they'll just pay her out probably.
Well,
Um,
Disney will always spin it as a victory, even if they lose the trial and they have to pay her, right? So the trial is set for September of next year, so about 10 months from now. They'll be in trial. It would be so juicy if this got televised like the Depp and Heard
ju-
trial, but I don't think it will be.
no, this is not that important to people.
It is actually. It's a part of the culture war in some respect,
Well,
right?
yeah, but who's Gina Carano? I don't want to downplay and say she's not important, but like she's not somebody that we grew up watching play Jack Sparrow our whole
Right, right,
lives.
right. She's
And
not a superstar, you
yeah,
know,
um,
but I think she's gained in popularity more than the shows made her popular, right?
this is
Because of this.
this is interesting with Disney. It seems like he's getting sued more and more of late.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, if it be for they're trying to screw somebody out of contract because of Disney Plus rights for streaming, if they are trying to screw people out, they don't want them, they don't agree with them politically, so they fire them and they don't pay them what they're due. If they do this, it seems, or even I think
Well,
did
there's
even
not a bunch of stuff with Disney firing people and
well,
going to court for it.
not firing, no, this, but just like things where they have in the fine wording of your Disney Plus subscription, you can't
Oh,
sue
right.
them over someone dying at their park. And just it seems like more and more lately Disney is
Well,
they're
they've been doing
begging to the
slimy
court.
business
Yeah.
practices, right? They've been real slimy for the past few years. They might have always been slimy,
They're
but here's the
slimier
thing:
than a slug.
in the world, in the information age, in the internet commentary age, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where everyone can leak some information on X and it doesn't get suppressed, it gets amplified. Everyone starts talking about it. We make videos on it, all kinds of stuff. Um, you just can't really hide it. So, on some level, there might have always been this slimy practice, business practices, but now it's coming to light. Like, in the early 2000s or the 90s, how would you have heard that Disney wasn't able, like, Disney wasn't getting sued because of fine print they had in some kind of agreement that they had Disney World customers sign, even though someone died at the park? Like, it could have been happening,
We
but
just didn't know about it.
unless the newspaper decided to print it, no one would know.
I mean, and two, I think Disney is more than just Disney. I know Disney has always
Yeah.
been Disney. They've done the Disney Pixar thing for a long
Hmm.
time now, and then they've always had the parks. But um now Disney seems more than just those entities. They have, Lucasfilms, they have Marvel Entertainment, they have Disney, they have like it's all capsulated under Disney, but there's more branches of the Disney now.
So Disney owns ESPN, A plus E Network, Disney Interactive Studios. They own Fox, or at least a part of it. Film Studios. They own National Geographic. They own Marvel Studios. They own 20th Century Fox, or at least a part of it. I remember when they made that purchase. They have Lucasfilms.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot. ESPN, that's sports.
Mhm.
ESPN. I know they also own a big chunk of Hulu, right?
Mhm.
I know they own, like, the traditional media places. I don't know if it's MSNBC or something, but Disney owns one of the popular mainstream media outlets, and that still, like, handles the news. So Disney owns a lot of subcategory companies, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously not just Disney, but all of these are separate LLCs under the parent company of Disney. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot that goes on. It's very big business, and what's interesting is Bob Iger seems to be in the news more than anybody. Probably he probably feels comfortable being in the news, right? I mean, even a year ago when he came out and said that said that they were going to be scaling back on the amount of projects as well as the heavy messaging. Do you remember when we watched that
Yes.
interview?
Yes.
Marvel and Star Wars, too much. I mean, you almost indicated kind of it's been a little much. Do you pull back in a way?
Yes.
You do.
Yeah. Yeah, you pull back not just to focus, but it's also part of our cost containment initiative. Spending less on what we make and making less.
And it doesn't seem like they're executing on that yet, but that leads us to the next point. There is, with Lucasfilms going down and down and down and down, there has been rumors online that Disney might eventually sell Lucasfilms in probably the not too distant future. There's no public statement that supports that, right?
How much they want? We got it. We'll buy it for 100,000.
But here's one of the indications. So we're getting into levels of conspiracy. Until we hear something, there's no way to confirm it. But here's another thing. This is a really big online at the moment. There's a lot of rumors that saying that people have been hearing and leaking from low-level employees that Disney's going to cancel the Ray movie. The movie that this activist documentarian director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy,
Yeah, which I knew
is going to direct.
I don't know nothing about.
We talked about it. Maybe it was just me and Wyatt, but we talked about it. And now they're saying it may not actually even happen. Now, there's Screen Rant's writing articles saying there's no evidence that it's not going to happen or it's going to be canceled in any way. But the fact that this is like stirring, it's kind of like,
possible.
where is this information coming from, right?
Yeah, it is
Where there's
definitely-
smoke, there's usually fire.
Yeah, it's definitely very likely that this is going to happen. I don't know what happened to Daisy Ridley. It feels like she dropped off the face of the earth. I know she's
She's
been
playing in
in a
some lower
few
level
things
films.
here and there, but it seemed like she did Disney and then she left for a while and then she pops up here and there, but doesn't feel like she's in the limelight. Like some of these actors that do a big project, like be star in a Disney movie, and then that kind of bumps them into stardom.
Well, she was recently in the news because some reporter asked her what she thought of all of the Star Wars hate of the sequels, right, that she was in. And she said, instead of just saying something like, oh, I can't focus on negativity, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. She added, you can't control how some men view women. So she made the fact that people didn't like the sequels a sexist thing. All right. So she's on the verge of starting to say too much in the same way that
better be careful.
Cynthia Evero from the Wicked movie just came out and she had some gripes and she complained to a fan in the same way that Rachel Zegler has been a problem, in the same way that
although with
Amanda Stenberg has been a problem,
Although with both of those actresses, they have already shot their movie, and now they're talking mad, nonsense. So they haven't shot the Ray movie, as far as we know. So
I don't think they've even come close to starting production on this thing.
No. So if she says something a little bit too much, well, we got to get rid of Ray. She's saying a little too much. We got to get rid of Daisy
they
Ridley.
did the whole Acolyte show with a bunch of nonsense. As it was coming out, they dropped the Amanda Stenberg went on The View to talk about the racist fans. She made a diss track at the fans.
But the show was already made at that point. What are they going to do? Just
tell her to
crazy.
Stop. Tell her to stop.
Crazy if Disney was getting so much backlash that they mid-season cut it off. They just said they released it's supposed to be an 8-episode show and they just cut it off at 3 because they can't handle anymore. They're just like, we're cutting it off. We're done.
Well, on one of my videos last week, I believe, I made the point that I think is very correct is they heard the actors and the activists saying oh, we're getting so much racist backlash. And then the executives, probably Bob Iger, because he's kind of old Hollywood.
Mr. Bob.
He's a shill. He's a shill for sure because he's let this happen inside of Disney. But at the same time, he's also old Hollywood, and he kind of has seen what our successes in the past, decades and what our failures. And I think he watched The Acolyte and he said, I agree with the people that are saying this is bad. And also, I would be willing to say, like, hey, not only is The Acolyte bad, but we casted some horrible actors that are causing problems. This doesn't get a season 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, and it's all pointing towards the fact that Disney has made some really bad decisions in the name of being progressive that has just slapped them in the face.